To me, personal growth is about making the conscious decision every day over and over for as long as it takes to commit to yourself and to choose yourself. And as cliche as it may sound, it's choosing to love yourself enough to want to be the best possible version of you that you can be. Hello, my name is Gigi. Welcome to today's video. So I've decided to kind of dive into this whole realm of personal growth, development, spirituality, all of these topics that are aligned with what's important to me in my life, and something that's been kind of a huge part of my life for a long time, but I haven't really expressed as much as I would want to. And I feel like this video is a good foundation for that, just like a starting point on personal development in general and what it means, and kind of getting started on the journey, because it is a journey. Over the years, I've had a lot of experiences and just been learning a lot and trying to gain a perspective on life and the human experience and everything as much as I can. I want to say just briefly that obviously I am not a professional by any means in these topics. It's just something that highly interests me and I've learned a lot about over the years, and I've experienced, and I honestly think that through experiences not only of our own but of other people, we can learn a lot. So if I can offer a perspective to anyone out there, I want to do so. So basically today I just want to highlight a little bit about personal growth in general and kind of what it means to me and what it can mean to you, and just my own perspective on it and some tips to kind of get started on this personal growth, personal development experience. And I want to start off by saying a few things. I think that a good start and a good foundation and basis for personal growth is basically defining it for yourself. What does personal growth even mean to you? What does it mean to grow as a person? Like, what is it that you want to accomplish? What does success mean to you? And I think that it's important in all aspects of this topic of personal growth, spirituality, whatever side of it you're on, to kind of realize that it's all about your perspective and it's all about the definition that you give things. And something that I've learned over this time is that being reflective is really helpful in all of this, and being able to know yourself and the way that you understand things and the way that you see things without thinking about anything else. Understanding that it's different for everyone because everyone sees the world in their own way based on their own experiences, and that's totally fine and totally okay. And it's actually, I think, one of the cool parts of being a human. So I think it's important to define that for yourself. To me, I have an idea of my ideal self and the way that I want to show up in the world and the things that make me feel good personally, and that's the way that I define personal growth for me, is just getting closer or being more in tune and aligned with my ideal self. So I think that kind of defining that for yourself, maybe taking some time to reflect on what you think is aligned with who you are. And I think that a lot of the times, maybe even if we don't know specifically how to define that, think about the things that make you feel good. It doesn't have to be this super like life-changing thing. It could be as simple as when I am doing this activity, like when I'm baking, when I'm, I don't know, doing a craft, when I'm working out, when I'm doing this, when I'm doing that, I feel good. So that's what makes you feel aligned with your best self and your true self. And so I think just thinking about that and thinking about what it is that makes you feel like you are living your best life, I guess you could say, and just envision that for yourself. Envision your highest self and show up as them, or set the intention to show up as that version of you. Something else that I want to say is that this whole thing, personal growth, development, whatever it might be, wanting to better yourself, it's something that you have to want for yourself. It's not this straight and narrow path that has no bumps or twists and turns. It does. It has bumps, it has twists, it has turns. And that's just, I think, the reality for everyone. You can't grow without being a little uncomfortable sometimes. Doing things that aren't always the easiest, or asking yourself the questions that aren't always the easiest to ask yourself, because obviously if you didn't do that, nothing would change. So this whole thing is a choice, and it's a choice that we repeat. It's a choice that we keep making for ourselves, but we have to keep making it. So that actually kind of leads me into my first point, or my first step, I guess you could say, of where to start when it comes to personal development. And that is simply making the choice, choosing, because free will, we have the freedom to choose every moment. So you have to make the choice to commit to yourself and to your journey, and to continuously choose yourself and commit to yourself to grow. And I say this just so that you know that don't be discouraged just because you are engulfing in this positive growth experience, and sometimes it's not all sunshine and butterflies, because that's not always the case. That is the point of this whole experience, is to learn. Learning comes through healing, which is uncomfortable sometimes, but it is necessary. You are your greatest commitment in this life. Second thing I want to say, or second step, I guess, is to kind of going back to the point of defining personal growth for you. Define the areas of your life that you want to improve. And I think that kind of setting out more specific goals in that sense can be helpful, because when you kind of get on this wagon, I guess you can say, on this train of self-development, let's call it a train. I'm gonna try to come up with an analogy. Sometimes I'm not the best at analogies, they might not make sense, but I'm gonna try. When you get on this train, or you build this train of self-development, there are a lot of wagons, I guess you can say. It's a very long train. Sometimes when you decide you want to make your life better, there are a lot of areas in your life that you can probably improve, and it can easily get overwhelming when you're thinking, okay, I want to do this, and I want to make this better, and I want to be healthier, and I also want my mindset to change. It's like a time of overall transformation, but sometimes we don't realize that that can be overwhelming, because there are a lot of areas in our life that I'm sure we want to improve, if not every area in our life. But I think that starting with defining, maybe I like to think of it as the three main categories of my life: mind, body, spirit, or soul, or whatever, if that's what you believe in. For me personally, I'm usually like, okay, this is what I need to improve for my mind. This is what I need to improve for my body. This is what I need to improve spiritually or soul-wise, whatever. I think that personally, that works for me. So maybe if that's something that you want to try, maybe think, okay, here's one thing, and starting simple, starting small, and then building up from there. Like, this is one thing that I can do to improve my life mentally. Maybe it's taking time to self-reflect. Maybe it's taking time to be with your thoughts. Maybe it's journaling. I've gone to therapy for years. That's something that I think is super healthy. Just kind of basically acknowledging your mind, something that's acknowledging your body. So maybe it's doing some type of physical activity. I do yoga, you could do walking, or just like moving your body is always good for your health. So maybe that's something that you want to incorporate. And for your spirit, if that's something that you're interested in, like spiritual growth, your soul, like do something that feeds that side of you. But that's just kind of how I separate it. So to sum it up, just define the areas of your life that you want to improve, so that it doesn't feel like this overwhelming sense of I need to fix everything right now. Just kind of, take it step by step. I know that when we go through these, I guess, awakenings, I like to call it, like it's just a different consciousness, it's a different awareness that you dive into. I remember in the beginning, I was like, I need to fix everything, like my whole life has been a lie. And I was just like constantly like seeking this like new truth or this new way of living, and it could get overwhelming at times. So I think that really just being able to like section it out and give yourself time and more of like an outline of things that you want to improve could be helpful. Schedule time for these things in your life. Sometimes it feels like there are just not enough hours in the day to get anything done, but I think that scheduling this time and making it a priority, making yourself a priority is super important. In addition to that, scheduling time for yourself to learn, I think, is also very important when it comes to personal growth. I mean, they always say knowledge is power, and I have to agree with that. Knowledge is something that just gives you confidence when you're going through this journey. When you start to know what you are experiencing and you kind of can define it, and you realize that other people have experienced these things, or there's a way of thinking, or there's a way to define these things, just learning as much as you can, whether it's watching videos on YouTube or documentaries or reading books, listening to podcasts. There are so many ways to learn, especially nowadays in our digital age. There's just so many ways to learn, and I think that having that sense of wanting to learn is a great thing, and you want to feed that part of yourself. So I think that taking time to learn is super important. So whether that's something that you're already doing or you want to incorporate, think about how you can add this into your life. And the third step for where to start that I want to share is making a plan. I feel like it organizes my brain a lot because I tend to be a little bit scatterbrained. I have a lot of ideas at the same time, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know where to go or what to do. So having a way to like lay that out and say, kind of how I was talking about choosing the areas of your life that you want to improve, the next step to that would be making a plan for it. Maybe scheduling, time blocking, whatever is helpful for you. And I can make a whole other video on planning and time management. I probably will soon, but making a plan is, I think, a super important step. Like, you know how they say a dream without a plan is just a wish or something like that? So if you dream of becoming this better version of yourself, set a plan. But also don't be too hard on yourself. And I say this from experience because I'm someone that sometimes, you know, I have this inner battle where there are things that I know I want to do or I have to do, but sometimes I'm still a human and I don't do the things exactly how I have planned. So make a plan without an attachment to the plan. So kind of having this outline for yourself where ideally you will do these things, or ideally you will at least follow this outline, but also try to refrain from feeling bad if it doesn't go exactly according to plan, because honestly in life a lot of the times things don't go according to plan, and we have to be okay with that. And I think that's something that is really important to this whole journey, is practicing not being attached and unattachment to things, to expectations, to experiences. So I think that part of that is having a plan, but not thinking it's the end of the world if you don't always do things, because I think that our mental health is important. And sometimes there are areas in our mental health, especially in the beginning of these things where we're trying to change so much, that our brain kind of freaks out. Because something to note is that psychologically, when we are going through this experience of change, of growth, of helping ourselves, self-help, in a way we're challenging ourselves and our brains and our reality, because whatever area of your life you want to improve, you do things the way that you do for a reason, or you see things the way that you see them for a reason. Psychologically, and I'm just going to mention this briefly, I don't want to get too in depth, but psychologically our minds are programmed from the point that we're born to, I think, 7. Don't quote me on that. I think it's the age of 7. I'm not a psychology professional, but I think it's something along those lines. Like from when we're born to the age of 7 is when our minds are programmed. At that point, we are learning how to be humans. We are learning how we perceive the world. We are learning everything. So we are sponges at that point. And sometimes we absorb things that might not be totally correct, which is when we develop tendencies that we might want to change now. But the thing is that we have been programmed for our whole lives to see the world a certain way, or to do things a certain way, or to feel a certain way, or to associate certain things. And when we suddenly flip this switch in our brain that's like, no, this is completely different, we want to change it like in the snap of a finger. But remember, like, over the course of our lives, we have learned to see the world this way, or to take these actions, or to have these habits or these reactions to certain things through repetition. And we have repeated this belief or this truth to ourselves over and over and over for the extent of our lives. So to say that we can just change that in the snap of a finger is a little bit, I don't want to say unrealistic, because hey, honestly, who's to say that you can't change it in a second? But from experience, it takes time, and it takes repeating this new form of living over and over and over again until our mind understands, no, this is how I want it to be. This is what I believe now. Because you're challenging basically everything, especially if you want to change every aspect of your life. You are challenging the way that you have been living for your whole life. And that's something that consciously you might want to change in an instant, but subconsciously your mind is still so used to this old reality that it's going to take a while. That's why I say it takes commitment, it takes practice. When you think about all of these things that are to better yourself, meditation, whatever it might be, you're practicing meditation, you're practicing gratitude, you're practicing mindfulness. It's a practice. It's something that you have to do consistently and over again, repetitively, until it becomes your reality. So don't be too hard on yourself. Remember that our subconscious mind has so much more control than we think it does, or that we realize it does. We are only operating at, I think, 5% consciously. We're only operating 5% consciously, and the rest is subconscious. I really recommend this book, actually, as a side note. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And also, I think that learning to acknowledge that whatever it is that you feel, whatever it is that you experience, is okay. Whether you are feeling good, whether you are feeling bad, I think a lot of the times, speaking from experience, we think that because we are making this decision to be a better version of ourselves or live our best life, that means that every day and every moment we have to be at this like high positive level, and being a positive person or whatever it might be, you have to constantly, put up this front that like everything's amazing. But that's not always the case. We're still humans having a human experience. So that means that sometimes we're gonna have off days, and sometimes we're gonna have lows, because we're, challenging certain aspects of our life. We are still healing some old pain that we need to acknowledge. And there's a lot of this that I can go more in detail in on other videos. I don't want to get too wrapped up in it, because we will be sitting here for a hot minute if I do. But just in general, acknowledging that it's not always sunshine and butterflies, and that's okay. Another reminder or tip that I want to include is that stepping out of your comfort zone is essential to personal growth. Learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, or to feel like you are maybe taking a risk. When you are trying to change, when you are trying to grow, it takes stepping out of your comfort zone. It takes stepping out of this box that you have placed yourself in to see difference, to see change. I say this loosely. It doesn't mean that suddenly tomorrow you have to go skydiving because you're stepping out of your comfort zone. It just means that being open to do so is an important aspect of this whole experience and this whole journey, because without stepping out of our comfort zone, we would never grow. The last thing that I want to say before wrapping up is something that I think is important to any aspect of personal growth. Whatever it is that you are trying to do, whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish, whatever it is, whatever phase you're in your life right now, right this moment, I think that acknowledgement is so important. And that's something that I'm learning right now after all of this time. Acknowledgement. Acknowledge the things that you accomplish. Acknowledge yourself in the present moment. Acknowledge the steps that you are taking. Even if it might not seem like a major shift in your life has occurred, acknowledge whatever it is that you do, and acknowledge your growth along the way. Even if it's just one thing that you do, even if it's just watching a video, reading an article, a book, listening to a podcast episode, acknowledge that, and acknowledge that you are making the decision to be a better version of yourself, even if it's just in small baby steps along the way. Acknowledge that and feel good about that, and be proud of yourself, and just build up that confidence in yourself and that understanding that you have to be your greatest cheerleader along this whole journey, along this whole experience, you have to be your greatest cheerleader. Of course, we all want the support of those around us. We want to feel validated and encouraged. But if you can't do that for yourself, you have to do it for yourself first. It's motivating to feel good about yourself. It's motivating to feel like, you know what? I did something good. I did something worth being proud of. For me, it doesn't matter how many people tell me that I'm doing a good job. If I don't feel it and if I don't believe it, it just doesn't click for me. It doesn't register in my brain that I'm doing a good job. So you have to tell yourself, you are doing a good job. You are doing enough. You are enough. You are always enough, and you are more than capable of being everything that you want to be and more. So that is all I have for you in this video. I think that kind of covered in a general sense. I think obviously there are a lot of things that I could go more in depth on and more in detail in, and trust me, I have a ton of ideas for videos coming up, so stay tuned for that. Make sure that you subscribe if you want to hear more from me. If you want to see more videos, you can hit the notification bell to be notified when I do upload videos. If you have any suggestions or anything that you want to learn of in the terms of personal growth, development, self-help, lifestyle, spirituality, whatever it might be, leave a comment below. Let me know if there's any topics that you are interested in, and I will make a video on it. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you in some way, shape, or form, and I will see you in the next one. All good things to all of you. Peace out.